Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I am Amanda Walter, or Mandy Walter. I am a member of the Cat B team here at Poplar Tree. I am with some of the wonderful members of my team, and I'm going to let everybody introduce ourselves so that we can get started presenting.
Hi, I'm McLean Sheehy. I'm one of the IDS teachers here at Poplar Tree.
Hi, my name is Diana Houston, and I am also one of the IDS teachers here at Poplar Tree.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now with all of you so that we are able to share our presentation. And our topic today is providing equity through easy, low-tech means. Okay. So here are some of the topics we were going to be covering today. We are going to talk about communication, play, exploring switch toys, reading and math, and especially for the reading and the math, we're going to be using some of the evidence-based programs that we use here in Fairfax County Public Schools with our IDS population. So communication is a big and essential skill that we need to continue to foster with our students. And we have created here at Poplar Tree some tactile and high contrast communication symbols based on what Words for Life and the Unity symbols look like, so that if they are able to transition to a more traditional symbols, that we haven't kind of used something completely different outside the norm. So we have go, and that particular go moves. For more, we just used hands, and we made that just out of tactile paper that's kind of glittery and an Ellison die press. And then my one student that I made the symbol for read did really well with yellow-red contrast. So that is just a construction paper small book that I made out of red and yellow construction paper. And then for another one of my students, we are transitioning him to being able to use an 8-cell communication board. And so I made the whole thing tactile, and I am going to show you the whole thing right now. Go, help, look, more, play, want, turn, stop. Okay, and a lot of these are just simple materials that we had available from old toys and manipulatives and things like that. I tend to be a bit of one of those people that never throws away things that can be used as manipulatives later on. I kind of have like a box of miscellaneous things. So these are just easy to get little things that I had for my student, and this has gone home for him. And then I'm making another version of it that I'm going to cut apart and put on a voice output device just to give him, again, a little bit more independence with his communication. I'm going to turn things over to the amazing Diana Houston as she talks a little bit more about some low-tech adapted play modifications.
Thanks, Mandy. Hi, everyone. We are going to talk now about some easy low-tech adaptive play modifications that you can do to any type of board game or card game or any other game that you have that may require some additional modifications in order to best support the needs of your child or your students. So here at Poplar Tree, some of the low-tech adaptations we have created have included tools such as using wiki sticks, popsicle sticks, pom-poms, foam core boards, or colored or glow-in-the-dark tape. The best part of many of these items is that they can be purchased at your local dollar store, which is one of my favorite stores to shop in. So I'm going to show you guys some pictures where we have used some of these tools so you guys can see some of these items in action. So one of the first pictures that I wanted to show you is this picture. So this particular picture shows a shower curtain ring that has been glued to a car. I love this modification because it allows students to use a shower ring to better grasp small toys, or in this instance, a car, so that they can have a much easier time picking up the car and rolling the car. The picture below are visuals that I have created with a fabulous tool called Lesson Picks. And I love Lesson Picks because Lesson Picks has an option to create a number of visuals for games, which is awesome and fabulous. These two pictures are from a game called PopUp Pirate. And this is another amazing game that uses a number of different skills. For some of the modifications that I used for this game, I used color tape to highlight the holes where students are supposed to place the swords. And then for the individual game pieces themselves, I took wiki sticks and wrapped them around the main part of the game pieces so that students would have a much easier time picking up and grabbing the pieces and sticking them into the barrel. Because the object of this game is to place the sword in the right spot so that the pirate will pop up. So moving on. So these are some of the low-tech adaptations that we have done. And there are many other adaptations that you can explore. But these are just some of the ones that my team and I have explored this year. So moving on, I'm going to be now moving into some high-tech adaptations or Switch accessible toys. So let's talk a little bit more about how to create your own Switch accessible toy. Now, Switch accessible toys are amazing. So many of you, I'm sure, are wondering, so what is a Switch toy? So a Switch toy is a toy that a user can use to start and stop a toy. And the best part of Switch adapted toys is that a child or even an adult can interact with a toy independently, which is fabulous because we really work on independent schools with many of our students, and we want them to be able to interact and play independently, because so much of their day is so dependent on many other people around them. And I think it's great that we have tools like this to allow our students or our children to play independently. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the tools that you will need to make your own Switch accessible toy. So in this case, these are tools used for this particular adaptation. So this particular toy is called a penguin race game. And these toys are available on Amazon. So for this particular adaptation, we used a wire cutter, electrical tape, drill, and for this toy, we used a bit size that was the size of 9 1/64 inch. But this size can also vary depending on the type of battery interrupter that you are using. You will also use a soldering gun and a solder, a screwdriver, and a jelly bean switch. So step 1 for adapting a toy. So make sure you search and remove all the screws that are inside the toy. Be cautious during this step because sometimes a toy can be hidden, like this particular screw. So we almost forgot to take this screw out because we didn't realize that it was behind the sticker of the toy. So we had to hunt and peck a little bit. So again, make sure you are very careful in that you search cautiously and make sure that all the screws are removed. Sorry about that. So step 2, you are going to, oopsie, sorry about that. So for step 2, you are going to remove both the toy halves. So at this point, you have undone all the screws, and you're going to carefully separate the toy so that you have 2 halves. So be careful when you separate the toys because of the internal wiring. So as you can see in this picture, we've separated the top and the bottom half of this toy, and you can see all this internal wiring inside. So be sure to take your time and really study the inside of this toy because this is a very crucial step moving forward. All right, so step 3, you are going to closely examine the toy wiring and be sure to examine the location of all the wires and look for a suitable place to drill a hole for the battery interrupter wire. So you might ask why this is important. So this is important because in order to insert the battery interrupter wire, you need to be able to create a circuit between the battery interrupter wire as well as the internal wiring of the toy that's already in the toy. So the easiest way to do this is to find the wire in the toy that is easiest to manipulate to complete the circuit between the battery interrupter and the internal wiring. All right, so step 4. So at this point, this is when we start to prepare the battery interrupter. So prior to any of this starting, this is what a battery interrupter looks like. So the circular part is the interrupter itself. And traditionally, when you are using a battery interrupter for a toy, well, oftentimes what people will do is they will insert the battery interrupter into the battery compartment of a toy. So the circular part will go into the battery compartment of the toy. Now, this is a fine method to go with for adapting a toy. What I found and what I think a number of my colleagues have mentioned is that inserting a battery interrupter into the battery compartment of the toy can often be very clunky, and it can impact the battery compartment being unable to close, which is often frustrating, and it gives you access to the battery, which is sometimes a no-no, because if you have students like mine who like to explore with their hands and may get into the battery compartment, you don't want that. So that's why I prefer this particular method of wiring a toy where the wiring is all internal. So going back to this, so step 4 is preparing the interrupter wire. So what you're going to do is you're going to use wire cutters to remove the battery interrupter. So you're going to use wire cutters to strip away the wiring casing. You will then probably want to strip off about 3 to 4 inches, which is what you see in this picture. However, it is dependent on how you plan to wire this toy. Next, you want to strip about 1/4 of an inch off the wire casing of each of the wires in the toy itself. So that way you have then prepared the wiring both on the interrupter and within the toy. All right, let's move on to step 5. So step 5 is drilling a hole for the interrupter wire. So this is another crucial step. So before you look into drilling a hole and deciding where you want to insert all your wires, you want to look at the wire locations within the toy and decide which place would be the best place to drill a hole. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this crucial? So it's important. It's important when deciding where you want to drill a hole to think about how you want your child or student to access the toy that you are adapting. So things to keep in mind is that so you want the hole should be close to where you want to wire the toy. And things that you want to consider is that how the child is going to be using or accessing the toy. And you want to make sure that the wiring that's coming out of the toy is out of the way when the toy is in use. So in other words, you don't want too much of the wire peeking out so that anyone who's playing with the toy may actually loosen the wire. All right, let's move on to step 6. So step 6 is in inserting the interrupter wire into the hole that you just drilled. So at this point, you want to test fit the interrupter wire to ensure that the fit of the wire is snug. So when you insert the wire, you want to feel a little bit of pressure to ensure that the wire does not come loose. All right, let's move on to step 7. So step 7. Okay, so at this point, this is where we start to really kind of get back into the internal wiring of the toy. So for this particular toy, we were looking at the wires and trying to decide which wire was the easiest to access and cut in order for us to complete a circuit between the wiring of the toy and the wiring of the battery interrupter. So for this one, we decided to cut the black wire. So the black wire is right here. And if you can tell from this photo that there's a red wire and a black wire. The reason we chose the black wire was because it was the easiest to access, and it also happened to be the longest wire in the toy. So to prepare that one, we stripped off about 1/4 of an inch of the wire casing off the wire, and we were then able to solder the wires together. So which actually leads me to step 8. So let me move us into step 8 on the slide deck. All right, so step 8. At this point, we're going to solder the interrupter wires together. So these two pictures show sorry, pardon me. So make sure that when you insert the wire make sure you insert the wire into the drilled hole that you have drilled. So, and then you're going to solder one of the wires together. So in this case, for this toy, the wires that we're soldering together are connected to the motor. So again, that black wire and the black wire of the motor, as well as one of the wires from the interrupter. So now that we've had those wires connected and soldered together, the most exciting part of this is that you now have a completed circuit in order to complete the adaptation of this toy. So what we did is we soldered the wires together, and then we used some electrical tape to secure and ensure that the wire stayed in place. So let's move on to step 9. All right, so, excuse me, step 9, sorry about that. Okay, so at this point, you're going to use electrical tape to secure the wiring into place. Again, this step is just to ensure that any internal wiring that you've done stays in place, because what you don't want is loose wires throughout the game. All right, so this is my favorite part. At this point, we have completed all the internal wiring of the game. So what you have is a completed toy that's ready, that's now Switch accessible and ready to go. So I'm going to complete this portion of the presentation by showing you this particular game in action. So let me click on this video and make it bigger. All right, let me play it one more time to you guys, the toy in action. If for some reason you are having any issues, make sure you recheck any of the wiring and resolder anything that might be loose. So that is the wiring for our toy. The last thing I wanted to talk about with you guys about toys is that not all toys have to be wired. In some instances, you can use a tool, this amazing tool called a power link, and a jelly bean switch to basically create an on-off switch. So the toy that we created here was basically a toy that was created with just PVC pipes, a shower curtain, and balloons. And we basically used a power link and a jelly bean switch to create a wind tunnel. So here we go. All right, I'm going to turn it back. Oh. All right, I'm going to now turn this back over to Mandy.
Thank you so much, Diana. I think sometimes we all overlook the importance of equity in play, especially if we have students that are going to other classrooms, not so much now in terms of COVID tide, but just that they're able to play with their peers or with siblings. Play is often overlooked, I think, in terms of making accommodations. So I am now going to talk about adapting our adapted curriculum. We are very fortunate in Fairfax County to have access to a program called Early Literacy Skills Builder. And it's a wonderful research-based program, or what we call an EBP, because Fairfax County really likes acronyms. And one of the things I've been working on starting last spring when we all kind of shut down, and then this summer, is modifying Early Literacy Skills Builder for my students that have trouble with their cortical visual impairment. So these are students that have trouble really seeing well. And the majority of the reading materials that come to us directly from the manufacturer are white and black. So it's not a high level of contrast. So what you see here is it's yellow and black right now. And this did not use colored ink. I just typed everything out into a Word document and then highlighted everything in black and printed it off on the photocopier onto bright yellow cardstock. And that can be whatever cardstock works well for your student. If you're trying to get engagement and they really like pink or turquoise or whatever, the beauty of cardstock is you can get yourself over to wherever you like to buy your paper and move forward. So some of the things we've done is we've created a high contrast level 1, just because my team and I wanted to make sure we were giving the students a nice opportunity to really show us what they know and work out some kinks with level 1 before we move forward. So we used yellow and black because I have students with cortical visual impairments, and that is the best contrast for those students specifically. And that we paired objects alongside pictures to further develop their vocabulary knowledge. What you see right here is for objective 3, which is pointing to words as they're being read. And that's me modeling that I'm putting each word on a separate piece of Velcro. So Mo is a green frog, is what I was doing there. But I'm going to show you now what a complete lesson of ELSB looks like, so you can get an idea in your head of how you can modify it. And I even explain with it, because this is from my YouTube channel that I created for my families to help them really understand how to use it at home. So hold on just a second. Okay, and welcome to the word boy and differentiating the word boy. This is one of the flashcards that I've sent home with you, with my families for my students to use. So over here we have the word boy, like I've sent home for you, and I have a little boy that I have glued next to it so we can kind of feel and pair that boy is boy. Just like in the reading program, they have pictures of boys that they put next to the word boy. We're going to try using objects for some of our students that need that extra little level of contrast and support. So I have a couple of things that I've stolen from my son's toy cabinet. And here we go. We have a boy. And that's what you can do. You can just put it next to it. Boy. This is also a boy. 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 Okay, and welcome to part 2 of working on our vocabulary words. So just like we did with boy, one of the things we're going to do is we can just put a group together of two people, whether it's a boy and a girl, a boy and a boy, a girl and a girl. That's really not what's important right now. It's the point that we do want to just illustrate the concept of friend, which is two people, or even you know what, 3 people. It's just for right now visually on my camera, I have 2 people. Okay. And then you need another non-example. The boy, I used a little plastic chair. But it really can be anything. Like over here, Like for Millie Monkey, I have a monkey puppet that I can put over here. Little monkey, little stuffed frog. It can really be anything. If you even want it to be, it could be a pen. Something like that is just trying to work on getting them to look at the correct answer. Because it does take time to kind of teach this type of skill. So one of the things, again, we're going to use a tap light, a flashlight, some other things like that. I have access to these if you want a copy of any of the stuff at home. And you can just kind of highlight friend. Can you find friend? Where is friend? And just remember, we want to give your child time to find friend. You should be waiting a minimum of about 5 seconds, really, for them to have that time to kind of float at. And that's at minimum. My students can take up to 10 to 15 seconds to kind of scan things, and tap lights really are a great tool for helping them scan and kind of reduce the lighting in the room. For that, if that's something you need to do, which we continue on with modifying lessons for home, that's something I can definitely do. I can turn the lights off and record. But that is our lesson for the word friend. Okay, and I wanted to show you then, here's how we do it then as working on the actual objective as it is written within the attainment program. Okay, now we're going to work on the flashcard game. This word is friend. Can you point to friend? Great work. This is friend. This word is boy. Can you point to boy? Great job. Okay, and you see that I'm really embedding that wait time. That really is, especially with low vision, you really do need that wait time. I know I mentioned it being at minimum about 5 seconds, but really for many of our students with cortical visual impairments, we're talking a wait time of 15 to 20 seconds here. And so I'm going to show you that's the first part where we're doing the vocabulary as the flashcard game. And then for words and sentences, I'll show you what that looks like and how we have worked on modeling that particular skill for our students. Now it's time to find our words and sentences, because that's what big frogs do. Mo is a boy frog. Mo is a boy frog. Mo is a boy frog. Mo. Now it's time to find our words and sentences. Okay, sorry, it skipped on me. I am so sorry. Here we go. Mo is a boy frog. Mo is a boy frog. Mo is a boy frog. Mo is a frog. What word goes here? Friend or boy? Mo is a frog. What word goes here? Friend or boy? Yes. Mo is a boy frog. Mo. Okay, and so one of the other things we've done, that's our flashcard game, is there's different ways we have worked on getting our students to work on the vocabulary, and that's how we do it there, is then the story. So much like I did for the sentences, I have made, again, that All About Mo book. I typed it out this summer and, again, printed it out into a high contrast format. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what that looks like. And then some of the ways that we work on those story questions, which has been especially helpful this year for VAP, for some of our younger students, for the fiction concepts within VAP. Hello, Mo. Mo is a green frog. Mo is my friend. And what I'm using there is something called a finger light, which is, again, one of those awesome light toys that, as Diana mentioned, that if there's something we can get from Dollar Tree, we're going to get it from Dollar Tree. And then here's an example of how we do some of the story questions that is part of ELSB.
Hello, Mo. Mo is a green frog. Mo is my friend. Mo is your friend. Mo can jump. He can jump over a book. He can jump over a table. Jump over the book. Mo. Jump under the table. Mo. Mo can jump. Go, Mo.
Hello, Mo. Mo is a green frog. Mo is my friend. Mo is your friend. Mo can jump. He can jump over. Okay, I'm going to skip to the questions. I'm having some problems with some of my video clips. I am so sorry. Frog. So what you see we've done here is for the student materials attached to ELSB is we've separated the words much further apart, and then I pair them with objects. So here we would put a book, and here is frog. I am going to now turn things over to McLean Sheehy, who is going to start talking about, I'm sorry, here, let me just review some of the things that we have done for ELSB as we've paired them, our vocabulary words with objects. And these are just counters. They're people counters for sorting and things like that, that I believe I got from Learning Resources that we then paired together. And I've sent flashcards like this home to some of my families that have students that have cortical visual impairments and really do need that level of support at home to really do better, so they don't have to work with a digital environment, even though they are a virtual student this year. Some other things you can do, when, especially for that pointing to words as they're being read, is you see that Diana has used, I believe this is Velcro or pom-poms, to do pointing to words as they're being read to really encourage that separation and to have it be fun. And we've even highlighted some of the words that we're targeting and things like that. Highlighter tape is another one of our favorite things because it's so much fun. And then Diana came across this wonderful thing called Roman word bubbling. This is something that you can just Google, Roman word bubbling, and it allows you to make these nice words like boy. You see here with the red, it can be a bunch of different colors. And it really allows us to add another level of contrast when we are creating materials to use in a virtual setting. And also printing stuff out in a non-virtual setting. It makes this nice, really bright, vibrant contrast for when we are doing a lot of our vocabulary. And we don't just use that in reading. We've used that in science. We've used that in math. We've used that in morning meeting to talk about people's names and letter of the week. It's just a really great tool that's free, which again is one of our favorite things. So, and then again, McLean has some students that use different that use the iPads to communicate with Lamp Words for Life, and you can ATS, Assistive Technology Services, and there's ways you can pair that with their vocabulary within their devices. Isn't that correct, McLean?
Yes. And it is a great way to incorporate some of those core vocabulary words and get students used to using their communication device while still working on some of those reading skills. And it's a really easy way to just embed that part of your day or that piece of your day into all aspects and content areas.
Thank you, McLean. Okay, so we are now going to, this is, I think, where we all got started back in the day, McLean, really adapting the adapted curriculum. We started with math.
Yes, we did. We started with, we had quite a few friends in our IDS program who had cortical vision impairments. And we really worked hard with these students who were at the age where they were participating in the VAP assessment program here in the state of Virginia. And we were also looking for ways to expose them to math concepts that were correlating with their ASOLs and even some of their grade level peers, what they were learning. So we were really looking for ways to show or to work with our students on these skills. So we created some high contrast materials that related to our early numeracy math program that we use. And a lot of what we used were tablets against a black background. So a lot of the time we used black cardboard or black poster board, though that seemed to be a really good high contrast background for a lot of our students. And the tablets can also be covered with any kind of color overlay that we were able to find. So that was also helpful as well. So in this picture, you'll see we created some math symbols using glow-in-the-dark tape. And this, I believe we were able to find on Amazon pretty easily. And in the dark, it creates a really high contrast glow-in-the-dark effect that was easy for our students to see. So this is just a quick video of how we use a 10 frame to work on counting and making sets in a 10 frame or using that high contrast skill.
Yes, I am a big fan of 10 frames because it can really teach your kids a nice constant array. It's very easy to understand. It's highly visual. Hopefully my videos are behaving now, so let's fingers crossed, everyone. If not, I will talk through them.
Hello. So one of the main adaptations that you'll hear us talking about is just creating that higher contrast or enlarging materials. This is just a 10 frame that instead of printing out on 8.5 by 11, this is on legal paper, just the same way we might print off. Hello. So one of the main
Okay, hold on. So it is just being strange today. So what I have done, and I'm just going to talk over the video since I'm having issues and we don't need to belabor it. We can move forward as we teach our students. So what you can do is this was just clip art of a 10 frame that I printed off onto legal paper so it's enlarged. And I'm just going to show you by skipping ahead on this particular clip that you can use instead of using objects in a 10 frame like you would have, we use the tablights. And that's just a fun way.
By 11, this is on legal
I'm just going to turn the sound down on this clip since it was doing strange things. And you can then just use the 10 frame. And as you're counting with the children, you see how it's giving that nice pop of brightness. And just a very fun way of adding to really help build that understanding of numeric concepts with our students in a way that's a lot of fun. My two wonderful and amazing colleagues, Diana and McLean, the other morning came up with this wonderful idea that I'm going to share with you. They are such, I love my team. We are such a fun team. They came up with the idea of breaking up. Well, you know what? I'm going to spoil it. Here we go. Hold on just a second.
That Diana Houston came up with. We have a blue and 2 pinks, and we created that by just taking one of those plastic Easter eggs that you can get just about anywhere, and ripping it in half, where it separates, and putting them over the top light so you can demonstrate 1 and 2 to get to the number 3.
Isn't that cool, everybody? So that's just one of the many ways that, as McLean mentioned, you can add color to the top lights. I've even in the past, one of the things you can get at Dollar Tree is brake light repair tape. For people that need to repair their brake light. I think that's pretty self-explanatory what that would be. And it's a nice bright red to add a little color separation.
Okay.
So because early numeracy is a research-based program, they have a lot of wonderful things. This is the comparison chart. So you see that all I've done here, so you already have seen our equal symbols and things like that. And hopefully this video will work for us. If not, I will go get the materials and explain it to you that way.
Okay, so one of the big things that we like to do over here at Poplar Tree when we are modifying early numeracy is we kind of enlarge the whole thing, as you saw that we did with the 10 frame. And this is just a big black piece of that black poster foam board. I get mine at Dollar Tree because they sell it at Dollar Tree, and it just allows us to make things more portable for our families. And this is glow in the dark glitter glue, which adds a nice level of contrast when you're doing things with our students. And so I'm going to put some of our top lights over here. Then the other thing, and turn them on. Here we go. That one is out of battery, so we're going to use this one. Here we go. One. And one. So we have one here and one here. And then we're going to use some of our pre-algebraic symbols. We have equal right there. And this is reflector tape, glow in the dark tape. Again, that's something you can probably get at Dollar Tree or in the automotive section of Walmart and places like that. It is available online, but I'm a big advocate if you can get it for a nice cheap price and it fits at Dollar Tree, then let's go ahead and do that. We've also made our other algebraic symbols. We have a greater than, actually now it's greater than, less than, our subtraction symbol, and addition. And these are all very easy to do with reflector tape.
Okay, and then the last thing we did is we modified that set maker, which is a standard tool used throughout early numeracy through all of their lessons. And this is one of our favorite things that we did because we were able to find multiple colors of the glitter glue that glows in the dark in order to have even additional contrast within the glow.
Okay, and finally we have our set maker. I've made the circles out of yellow glow-in-the-dark tape. So we have our first circle, our second circle, and the circle where we create our sum. But I made our algebraic symbols of it for addition and equal. And the blue glitter glue, it actually is two different colors when you do this. I'm in a higher contrast environment. And then I have our number line for counting when we put everything together. So we're going to just demonstrate that we can have one. And again, just pulling up that one. Here we go. One. Plus one. And then we're going to move them all together to our equal circle. And then count them. 1, 2. This is a nice visual way of demonstrating some of these math concepts to our students.
that have done very well with them. That is actually one of our favorite things that I've done, is that we've done over the years. I think everyone is, starting with, this is our starting off point. The first thing we really made when we started adapting the adapted curriculum was the set maker. And it's just a fun way, I think, of realizing that while it does take time to make these modifications, they weren't very complicated. They just took, and really the time it took wasn't a whole lot of time. We were talking about time waiting for glue to dry. So it's something you kind of do on a Friday, and then when you come back in on Monday morning, it's ready to go.
Yeah, and again, it was just something that we felt was really necessary and important to make accessible for all of our students. And a lot of it was you taking the manipulatives and the materials that are already given to us through the early numeracy program and just making them all accessible for all of our students. And even our students who don't have visual impairments benefit from having this high contrast visual to help them focus on the task at hand.
Okay, I have one more slide to show you, and that is all three of us are on Twitter, and all three of us love helping people. That's obviously what we do and why we do it. Otherwise, we would not have modified and adapted our adapted curriculum, as we like to say. And so right here we have our various Twitter handles where you can find us. We are all at Poplar Tree Elementary. So you can even shoot us an email if we're available on the web. We're available on Twitter if you have questions. We are here to help you, along with a whole team of other people in Virginia. That's why we have this particular SPED conference. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you are able to help your students. And if you have other questions or ideas, as I said, please feel free to reach out to any of us. So I am Mandy Walter. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm McLean Sheehy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, and I'm Diana Houston. Thank you guys for listening in. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime.